Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Oh, what fun we have up here in the cities. Wasn't it just 70 degrees last week?
Is there a basketball tournament going on?
I have no idea what's going on. I am very oblivious to what's going on in the outer world.
Because here in Minnesota, don't we always get a snowstorm when there's a high school basketball tournament?
Or a hockey tournament, or a girls' tournament, or something, yeah.
Okay.
All I know is I finally got to call my dad and Turbo down south, and I was like, hey, how's it going down there? My guys out on the beach, your final weekend in Florida, at least for my folks. And they're like, knowing damn well that the weather system that came ripping through Minnesota this past week gave us 70-degree plus temperatures. And then as it rolled through, gave us tons of rain. And now northern Minnesota's got snow. We've been getting snow sprinkles. Even now it's still snowing outside, but everything's warmed up, so it's all melting. And meanwhile, Florida was just drenched with rain, at least the mid part of the state. And that was when I called in my folks, how you doing? They're like, we're stuck inside. It was actually hailing for a while. Hail on a tin roof is always a fun noise. And everything was blowing. Even Turbo was like up in Orlando. He's like, oh man, it was crazy. So it was a huge system. I mean, the radar just showed it over Minnesota, going up into Canada, across New York, and then the tail of it was out in the Atlantic, and just enough of it coming across Florida. So get used to it, kiddies. That's going to be it. The weather we get's the same you got, and we can all talk about it. Woohoo!
And now that we've completed our weather report,
we can talk about what we came here to talk about.
And that would be previews. Previews, everybody. It's previews week.
I thought it was the most paused movie scenes of all time. Never mind. I'll close that website.
We all know what the most
I'm better.
We all know what the most paused movie scene of all time is, and it's in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, I thought it was Basic Instinct, but no, we'll go with that.
Phoebe Cates, man. Phoebe Cates.
Oh, well.
I got to tell you, Kevin Kline, luckiest man on the planet. He's married to Phoebe Cates.
Okay. If you say so.
Wonder if he ever asked her to get out of the pool to music by the Cars.
I gotta get to my right page.
And she smacks him on the head.
I'm going to start, people, flip your catalog to the side with the War of the Bounty Hunters #1 on it. Again, we're using previews catalog.
That's not the comic book side.
No, I'm just going to cover the toy section because I got a couple toys that I am seriously thinking about getting. The first one's on page 30. I forget who the heck is doing this. Hero Collectors by Eagle Moss. They do all these different things with different collectors items. They've done Doctor Who, Battlestar Galactica. They've done WWE. They did a bunch of Marvel DC heroes. Up in the corner, page 30, Space 1999 Eagle Transporter for $79.95, 10 inches long. I may buy this, depending on all the other things that we tempt ourselves with as we go through the previews. I mean, I'm not big on the Star Trek and the other things, but I've always wanted an Eagle transport. And I've passed on a few over the years. There was a couple. I remember seeing one, I think, at Greg Ketter's shop that was like a $200 version. At $79.95, I've seen these boxes. You can actually open them up and display them and put them back in the box if you want. So I'm looking forward to that. Another tempting one is on page 48. If you just take a quick peek there. The Transformers Back to the Future Gigawatt action figure. They take the DeLorean from Back to the Future and it transforms into Gigawatt, the Transformers. They've done this with a couple other ones. Like I think there was a Ecto 1 that transforms into something. I may get this one. I don't know. It depends on what we do when we flip the book over and go through the comic side of the previews. And I got to tell you, just judging by what's coming, there's not, I swear my orders are getting lower and lower every month.
Well, then, Joe, why don't you turn to page 49?
Actually, I have a theory as to why my comics order is getting smaller and smaller. And other than the DC shenanigans, which we'll get to, what occurs to me, and of course, Cory, you've talked about this when people start saying, "Oh, comics are dying," but as I'm going through, there seems to be more and more graphic novels being offered that seem to be aimed more at young readers and all ages, which I'm not saying is bad, but I'm also saying I'm not your clientele.
Right.
And that's cool because that means no matter what, comics are going to survive in one form or another. Whether or not your local friendly neighborhood comic store does or not is a different question. And maybe one we will talk about in a future podcast because Lord knows we're trying our best to get you guys interested in comics and stuff.
You did not turn to page 49 on the toy side, did you?
Oh, no, I'm on page 49 on the other side. Hang on, there we go. Page 49.
Page 49 and 50 on the toy side. Here's how you can spend a lot more money.
Ooh.
My Arcade Retro Micro Players. These are 6 3/4-inch mini arcade cabinets for Bad Dudes, Bubble Bobble, Burger Time, Caveman Ninja, Dig Dug, Elevator Action, Galaga, Galaxian, Heavy Barble, Karate Champ, Mappy, Pac-Man, and Rolling Thunder. Then on page 50, these are 10-inch mini arcade players. Let's see, the Bandai Namco has Pac-Man, includes classics like Pac-Man, Galaga, and Dig Dug. Let's see, it also has 20 games: Battle City, Dig Dug 2, Galaga, Galaxian, Mappy, Pac-Panic, Pac-Man, Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures, Pac-Mania, Rolling Thunder 2, Splatterhouse, and then underneath it, Data East 10-inch mini arcade player. 34 classic Data East titles like Burger Time, Karate Champ, and Bad Dudes. There you go, Joe. Back to the 80s with you.
I may wait. One of these days, it's my goal to actually get like a full-sized one. One of the guys we've been trying to get on our show forever from the old collecting stuff show, Mike Butler. He actually has these machines in his basement. So one of these days, we'll in post-pandemic, we'll either come over for WrestleMania or we'll come over and interview him for this here podcast and all that fun stuff. So yeah, every so often you see, especially around Christmas time, they offer like the full-size ones that have like all certain brand inside the cabinet. And some are pricey, up to $1,000. Some are relatively cheap, like $500.
I bought a little one of those mini arcades when they were branded with Stranger Things, and it's got 4 different games on it. And I got to tell you, it's going to have to wait till I get my eye surgery because, man, that screen is small.
Yeah,
that screen is way super small.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Plus, there's emulators online, and you can be looking for stuff like that. So,
and now let's go to comics.
All right, flip your catalog over again, and I will start. Of course, as you know, this is interactive, so you can grab your mighty previews with you and then go see what Cory and I are interested in.
I'm going to start first, though.
Oh, something different.
Go to page 30.
Oh, I don't want to. Is this free comic book day stuff?
Yes, this is all the free comic book day stuff except DC. And this is why Diamond sponsors free comic book day. So DC, while they will be participating, are not an official participant. So their 2 books will not be listed. But they've got all of the comics that are available, and Joe and I will be going up to St. Cloud to pick them up. They've also got toys such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ninja Elite Series, G.I. Joe Mini-Mates box set. Scotty Young drew this year's Free Comic Book Day shirt, so I'm going to be getting one because it's Scotty Young.
Yeah, you look so cool. You'll be a chick magnet picking that up.
And they also have...
There's also a poster, too, if you just want to go that route.
They also have Spider-Man Spider-Verse 4-piece enamel sets, which is, let's see, it looks like it's Miles Morales, Old Drunk Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, and Spider-Ham.
Yeah.
And a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers pin. It says it's Automorphin.
Why not?
So it's got spring power action. I have no idea what that means.
Well, if you
and
spend $25, you could probably get it.
So lots of stuff. Free Comic Book Day.
Oh, Hero Clicks is down in the corner there. If you're in the Hero Clicks, I would recommend if you're a speculator to pick up that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle set. It's got a retail price of $110. Maybe you can get it for cheaper. I cannot envision many people buying that. I know the one year I had Crazy Comics. They had was it a Stargate toy that came in a baggie, and that thing is phenomenally expensive. And I gave them away free, and I still ended up with like 10 of them. And over the eBays, I sold them all. So yeah, it's something. Again, if you like toys and you're going to invest in it, or if you're a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan or you know one, definitely point that bad boy out, because now's the time when you want to talk to your comic book store and see about securing one. I can't see many people doing that, but if you're interested in, you know what to do.
Yep. So Free Comic Book Day this year is August 14th, which is just a few days past my birthday.
Yep. And we'll see if I can get it off work, because I have no idea. I've been having a tough time getting Saturdays off. So, and since I originally planned the normal May day, which I've since canceled, I may be sick that day. All right. I don't have much for Image because they're the first in the catalog. There is one thing I will point out if you'll jump to page 60. And I'm pointing this out for people who like The Doors. There is a graphic novel called Jim Lives. It says, amidst the intense colors of a foreign land, Jim lives. It's the story of a man searching for his son, a correspondent for a popular newspaper, who vanished into thin air after sending one last enigmatic message. Jim Morrison isn't dead. He's hiding out in Italy. I saw him with my own eyes. I mention this because from the same creators, I bought Paul is Dead, which was dealing with the Beatles, the whole idea that Paul did die, or did he? Totally fictionized account with the Beatles. I love the Beatles, so for me it was a natural. I enjoyed the heck out of the graphic novel. I'm not as big on the Doors, so I'm not going to be picking this one up. But if you are, or again, you have a fan that is, this would be the type of thing you might want to take a peek at and pick up. Other than that, most of the stuff in Image I pick up, including the second Sunstone hardcover. I talked about the first one last month. I don't have anything else. How about you, Mr. Strode? What do you got from Image?
Nothing I am really jumping on. I did think it was interesting that we're getting a 12th issue of The Ant, which is a character that Eric Larson bought from the original creator, and now the original creator is throwing a fit online that Eric Larson bought his character.
Why? I was surprised Eric actually gave him credit. Didn't that guy end up in jail or something?
Yes.
Yeah. So allegedly, sorry.
No. He was in jail.
Yeah,
crime would be allegedly.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he sold it. He got credit for it. And again, It's one I saw, and I think I'm going to pass on because I don't have the other ants. But I know Eric is planning to do something with the character. He had her show up in a number of issues, I believe a big Spawn and Savage Dragon crossover. So again, pick up your old issues of Ant, not very expensive online. Here's what number was that?
12.
12. And then keep an eye and see what Eric does in the future.
A book that I absolutely adore is starting a new story arc, That Texas Blood #7. Now, if you read the first 6 issues, you know that that first story arc comes to a definite conclusion. This starts with a new story, basically using some of the same characters, but not the same lead character. So I have a feeling this is going to be one of those where it's going to be based around the town and the area and the crimes that have happened there. Cannot recommend that book enough. Also, the best-selling hardcover comic from last year is now coming out in trade paperback, and that is Dracula, motherfucker! This was so much fun. I picked it up in hardcover. Absolutely loved it. It's by Alex DeCampi, drawn by Erica Henderson. Victorian England, Dracula's brides nail him to the bottom of his coffin. Los Angeles, 1974, he gets set free.
I imagine he's not going to be very happy.
Not only is he not very happy, but the 70s are a very different time from Victorian England.
Cory, are you a Spawn fan?
No, not really. But I did see that they're starting a new spin-off.
They're expanding it, the Spawn's universe. And they got a double-edged one-shot, I believe, or it might be I guess it's a new Spawn title, where they're, I'm sorry, I was correct. Spawn's Universe #1 is a one-shot, where they are going to start.
Series premiere.
Well, it says a new Spawn title, and in the next paragraph, with this one-shot, the world of Spawn changes forever. So maybe it's a series of one-shots that'll just introduce more Spawn characters, because it sounds like Todd's going to expand his Spawn universe. So if you can't have an Image universe, just have a Spawn universe.
What a mess. Just like most stuff at Todd McFarlane, you don't really know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Todd's writing it. A lot of covers by J. Scott Campbell. So just something to keep an eye on. Something I'm not keeping an eye on, but that's it for me for Image. Anything else you got?
The thing they are pointing out this month, it is Manga Month in previews. So they have comics that they say will appeal to manga fans.
Move along.
Well,
if you're not buying it, who cares?
They're pushing Monstrous, so if you haven't picked up Monstrous, you may be able to get a deal on that.
Oh, I've recommended that for a while. I've been. It's more fun in a trade for me because it reads better.
Yeah.
But
all right. Nothing else new from the Image Boys.
Okay. To Dark Horse, I got nothing. How about you?
Oh, I have a few things.
Okay. Now, again, are these things you're buying, or are these just things you're pointing out?
Things I'm buying.
Okay. That to me is more interesting. I know we point out a lot of things, but I always I kind of want to make that a distinction as we go through previews. Because like I said, I'm not buying. Well, no, but sometimes, especially when we get to the Marvel catalog, I'm saying if you buy every Marvel image or every Marvel graphic novel that you talk about, you're going to need a more Strode compound because you're going to fill that back room if it isn't filled already. So again, to differentiate between, and plus I think if we're buying it, we're putting our money where our mouth is versus, like I said in the other thing, I'm just pointing this out, the Doors graphic novel, just because we may have a Doors fan out there that hadn't noticed this. How many times have somebody who's a fan of something never noticed the comic book because we're such a small niche market? So, but again, for me, Dark Horse had nothing new, and that's not saying I didn't order anything, but here's the part that I like. I like to just sit back and see what kind of things you came up with.
All right. First up is the Victories Omnibus. It is a series by Michael Aaron Oeming, who you may know.
What page is that on?
That is on page 116. Who
Thank
you
you.
may know from Powers. He draws Powers, but he also does tons of creator-owned stuff. This is one of his creator-owned books that I have not read. It collects all 4 trade paperbacks of the series in one $30 book. Dark Horse is one of those where if they're putting out an omnibus, their omnibuses are big, thick trade paperbacks. I love those as well because it usually means we're not going to be selling these trade paperbacks individually anymore. Here's a nice big chunk. It's how I'm reading Hellboy.
Have a chunk.
Really works in those big chunks.
It's always good to have a chunk.
Have
a chunk.
Speaking of omnibuses, page 123, the 4th of the Kabuki omnibuses.
Kabuki, that David Mack's hard to get.
And they also say that there will be a upcoming Kabuki TV series from Sony. Doesn't say where it will be, just that Sony's making it.
Say, go find those first issues, man. They're going to go up in price. Up.
On the next page, 124, another of the EC archives. I'm pointing this out because I point out the ECs, but I already have all of these. I have them in the Russ Cochran collections. This is MD, which is another of what they called the new trend titles.
The manic depressive.
These were the titles they did after the Comics Code came in, and these are stories of doctors and
nice.
Well, the art's pretty.
Yeah.
The stories are boring as hell, but the art's pretty. You have never been so bored to see Graham Ingalls, who, when he did the Tales from the Crypt and all those stories, his art just had this weird, gothy drippiness to it. It's one of those where if Bernie Wrightson absolutely loved Graham Ingalls. Kelly Jones absolutely loved Graham Ingalls. And when you look at their art, you can see, it's like he's their grandfather of art styles. But these are bad, completist only. But on page 125, Nexus, the newspaper strips. Volume 1, The Coming of Gormando. This was a Kickstarter only. And then I think the Kickstarter was pulled and Steve Rude only sold the stories through his webpage. But this is a brand new Nexus story by Mike Barron and Steve Rude, and anytime you get new Steve Rude art, it's a cause to celebrate because he takes forever to draw things. One of my favorite manga in the world, What's Michael? It's a second collection. This is another big, thick, 464 pages, kind of the size of one of their omnibuses. It collects books 7 through 10. I love this series. It is Japanese cat stories, and they are not connected in any way, shape, or form. Some are where the cats are living lives like people, some where the cats are just cats, some where the cats are kind of a mix between the two. It's impossible to describe. Volume 1, it was pure joy. This one's good too. And then in their relist, it's tons and tons and tons and tons of manga.
Yep, lots of manga.
So that's it for Dark Horse.
All right. IDW.
Next is IDW.
All right. Only a couple things. These are pointer outers for me. If you're a big Godzilla fan, on page 148, 149, lots of Godzilla. The two that caught my attention, there's a Godzilla Rivals versus Hydra, which we called the smog monster in the U.S. And this sounds like this is going to be a $7.99 quarterly book where Godzilla is fighting different classic monsters. Again, sounds interesting. I will probably pick it up in book form. I imagine this is the same format that Byrne used to do his Star Trek book in. So you're going to get a lot of reading for $7.99. Across from
it is drawn. Byrne's Star Trek stuff was all kind of, he took photos and photoshopped them into stories.
Photoshop, that's the word I'm thinking of.
Regular comics.
Yep. Across from that, another collection, Godzilla World of Monsters, taking up where the last one goes.
Collects 3 graphic novels, Gangsters and Goliaths, Cataclysm, and Oblivion.
Anything else? I've got one more thing, but do you have anything for IDW?
I have 2 things. One that I haven't decided if I'm buying or not because of the price.
Which is?
On page 141, The Art of Rush, Serving a Life Sentence.
Oh, I saw that.
This is a newly expanded and updated coffee table book, delves into the 40-year relationship between Rush and their longtime artist and illustrator, Hugh Syme. It really goes into all of the art they did for the albums and CDs. And usually they would change it for the posters for the concerts. Like Moving Pictures had a different version of the Moving Pictures tour had a different version of the album design. Huge Rush fan, but man, $100 for a coffee table book, but I don't even have a coffee table. It's a bit much.
I don't even drink coffee.
And then, let's see, where is it here? Joe, go to page 159.
159. Got it.
You have seen the, man, my voice is going bad.
Yeah, it's wintertime again.
You've seen the artist editions of comics where they reprint directly from the original art. They just scan the original art, put it on similar paper, and have it at life size, at the size of the art. Those usually go for $150 to $200. This is an artisan edition, which is regular comic size, but it's still scanned from the original art. This is Steranko, Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Artisan Edition. This reprints Savage Tales 151 through 162, as well as covers from those issues, select number of extras. All pages are scanned from the original art, from the artist's original archive. He has never sold any of his pages, so nobody owns any of his pages, just him. I have this. I have the trade paperback that reprints all the S.H.I.E.L.D. stories. I have the omnibus that reprints them. But man, this is from the original art, and I've seen the artist edition. It's just beautiful, and I'm really, really tempted on this one. I'm still kind of back and forth on it. I also want to point out a reprint book on the next page. Page 160.
And that's my last one as well.
They are reprinting, and it looks like in the original larger size, Star Trek Debt of Honor, which was a hardcover graphic novel that DC put out in 1992, which was Chris Claremont and Adam Hughes doing a sequel to Star Trek IV. Because Claremont felt that the way they got rid of the woman who came back, who came to the future in Star Trek IV from the 80s, they felt, Claremont especially felt, well, why did they just get rid of her? She was a character who should have been around.
I don't know if that's it.
Yep, this is the one.
I don't know. I thought this is the one where the threat is going across from like the original Doomsday Machine to the attack of Voyager to all these intergalactic events, and that's the threat. But she's not a large. She's in it, but she's not a large part of it. Yeah, but she's not a large part of it. She's kind of like the introduction and the ending.
I thought it was interesting. Claremont's the only one who's used her.
Yeah. No, you're right. They bring this great character. Star Trek, that's a whole different podcast. Star Trek does such a wonderful job of introducing people, but then they kill them off or they ignore them or it's just an arrogance of Star Trek where they just won't go back to anything done before, which is really too bad because it's like leaving a large I understand where you want to do new stories, but you can't always go back and revisit old ones. Wrath of Khan, I'm looking at you. But no, she's in it, but she's not like the critical part of it.
It's
But
also Adam
nevertheless,
Hughes, man.
if you're a Star Trek fan and you have never ever read this, you owe it to yourself to pick this baby up at $10. It's just, I may pick it up just because I have no idea if I have the hardcover anymore. And this is just one of those stories where if I just love it. I love it when what Claremont did. I love it when Peter David does it, and then throwing Adam Hughes art. Hey, you can't get much better.
And it's one of those things, after Claremont left the X-Men, he did some really cool stuff, but he only did like a little bit here, a little bit there. He did one Star Trek story, and after you read it, you're like, man, I'd love to see Claremont do some more Star Trek stuff. He did a run on the Fantastic Four, which I'm rereading now. It's fantastic stuff. And every so often when he says, what do you guys want to see? And I go, I miss you on Spider-Man. And he just never acknowledges it, which is a shame. Because he did
probably
Marvel
knows,
team up.
He'll probably knows he'll never going to get Spider-Man again.
Marvel's just paying him to sit there. Why doesn't he say, hey, I'll do a Spider-Man graphic novel? Chris Claremont's Spider-Man graphic novel would sell.
Oh, yeah. I'd be on that.
But
all right. Is that it for IDW?
That's it for IDW. Marvel.
No, Dynamite.
Oh.
Take them in order. We could even do DC if you want, since we kind of shoehorn them in.
I have DC pulled up if we want to do that.
I could do that. Now, my biggest beef with DC, and again, I don't think it's who the hell's distributing DC?
I think it's called Lunar. It's basically DCB Service.
And then DCB Service has no descriptions of any title whatsoever online.
You've got to download the DC Connect.
Which again, if you're gonna make me jump through fucking hoops, fuck you. Because trust me, there are so many other things I can spend my money on, DC, that, I mean, literally, first of all, you're making it hard for me to buy anything because you're offering nothing. Your graphic novels suck. And then the second thing is, if I got to go hunt down your descriptions, and I forget where I went. I don't know if I went to, I don't know. I just Googled DC June 2021 offerings and picked the first website I seen. Yeah, no, that's not the way to run it. So again, this one, I don't, DC, you got to get on these guys and say, hey, if you're going to solicit me, at least offer. I mean, geez. With that said, other than Supergirl Women of Tomorrow #1, which I am strictly ordering because, as you know, I buy Supergirl art. So I'm buying 10 blank covers, maybe more, because it's nice to have Supergirl art on a Supergirl cover, and I can just give it to the artist. Hopefully the cover's good enough for them to draw on. I've heard of some creators talking about how they're having trouble because they go to do the cover and it's either too shiny or it sucks up the ink too much. Other than that, I got nothing from DC. Although I may buy the OMAC paperback just because, hey, it's Jack Kirby. Come on.
They are starting the big crossover in Infinite Frontier, which is by Josh Williams and an artist I don't know, Ermanico. And it's going to, this is kind of their setting up the multiverse miniseries.
I did see they have
miniseries with the Secret Files.
Yeah, I saw the Secret Files. It was like $10, and I'm kind of like, ugh. I like reading those, but man, I find them in dollar boxes everywhere. So I don't know if I want, even at half price, I don't know if I want to give them $5 for that. Plus, it's kind of more fun just to discover it on your own.
The Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow that Joe already spoke of. It's written by Tom King, one of my favorite writers, and new artist Bilquis Evely. And the cover looks okay, and then they show an interior page, And it's like, oh my God, that is beautiful. Beautiful. Ah, so I'm hooked. I was hooked when it was just Tom King, but looking at the art, it's like, wow, that is amazing art. And I'm glad that DC is breaking away from everything has to look like Jim Lee.
Yeah. Now if they could just get descriptions to me so I could get excited about it.
Let's see, is there anything else here before I get to the trade paperbacks? Not really. There's not really. Let's see, what did Batman Reptilian? Okay, here we go. Batman Reptilian, written by Garth Ennis. That's really all you should need. Drawn by Liam Sharp. That also could be all you need. It's a DC Black title, so there'll be swears in it.
Really? I'm shocked. Seriously, I'm fucking shocked here.
We are finding out what Bendis is doing now that he's left, that they've killed off that, what was the Young Justice line called? I forget what it was called. That's dead. That event Leviathan, I remember reading it going, this is an event? Well, it's going to be starting a new Checkmate series. Bendis is writing it, art by Alex Maleev. Yeah, it's a first issue, but trade paperback it. We've got a Green Arrow 80th anniversary, so it's a 100-page special. Phil Hester, Jeff Lemire,
Billion variant covers.
Benjamin Percy, Otto Schmidt, Tom Taylor. I'm looking. Oh, there is Mike Grell. There's some Mike Grell in there. There's some art by Mike Grell as well. But I like these. I like these big anniversary books. They have decade variants. Let's see who's drawing them. Michael Cho, Neil Adams, Derek Chu, Gary Frank, Howard Portal, Jen Bartel. Haven't decided what one I'm getting yet. And now let's get down to the trade paperbacks if I can get there. The problem is this one I can't flip through the pages because it's all online.
Yeah, and for the most part, the one I found, it wasn't even in any sense of alphabetical order.
No. By the way, there's a graphic novel adaptation of Space Jam, the new Space Jam, because remember they did a graphic novel adaptation of the original Space Jam when it came out.
Which I think I found at that dollar sale we both went to on different days a couple weeks ago.
So there is a Wonder Woman anthology book coming out. I haven't seen much about that, but Amy Reeder's writing a story, so that's enough for me. I remember looking through this, and there was nothing that jumped out at me. A lot of the Future State stuff is getting its trade paperbacks. And OMAC, One Man Army Corps.
Yeah.
OMAC, One Man Army Corps, an 8-issue book. I bought the hardcover of this. It is Kirby toward the end of his DC run, and just kind of throwing shit at the wall because he knew that no matter what he did, DC was going to cancel it. So he's like, sure, I'll do a science fiction book. What the hell? And as you read it, it reads like he's Kirby going, yeah, what the hell? There is a paperback of Supergirl Adventures, Girl of Steel. Now, Joe, the Supergirl on the Superman animated series had a different look than all the other Supergirls. She wore kind of a crop top and a skirt.
It was kind of based on Peter David's version of Supergirl at the time. Or teenagey.
This book, when I read the name of the writers, you'll be blown away. Because I loved this book in the 90s. Evan Dorkin, Sarah Dyer, Mark Miller, and Adam Beechin. Drawn by Brett Blevins, Terry Austin, and two other guys you won't know. This reprints all of the Supergirl adventure stuff from Superman Adventures. This looks like a kid's book. It's not. It's really well written. Come on, it's Mark Miller and Evan Dorkin writing Supergirl stories. I am picking up the Sweet Tooth Compendium that reprints all 40 issues of the comic that was put out through Vertigo and is now in Black Label and is getting a Netflix series. Got the hardcover of The Green Lantern Season 2, the Grant Morrison, Leon Sharp series. And I believe that is it. I don't even think they had a...
They didn't have an omnibus.
Nope, no omnibus. Another reprint of Sandman in hardcover. This is book 3. Oh, man, and their covers look terrible this year. I had read that DC had gotten rid of most of the people in the design department. I'm sorry, in the collected edition departments. And when you look at the covers, you can see why. They're incredibly generic. Incredibly generic. They don't look good. And, here's another thing. The Suicide Squad case files just kind of reprints random issues. Harley Quinn #1, Birds of Prey #58, Booster Gold #1, Detective Comics 585, Green Lantern 174. What? DC gives me a headache.
All right, well, let's get on to Dynamite. Normally, Cory, you don't have anything for Dynamite, do you?
No.
I have only a couple things to point out other than the things that I normally buy. If you are a fan of crossovers like I am, you probably want to look closer at that Dynamite. That's die with an exclamation point and then Namite. Because what they're doing is they're taking all their characters they have license for and just crossing them over in one big mishmash. What caught my attention was that the current Dynamite Lives #1, the volume 2, has Ash from Walking Dead in it. And on page 188 is the inevitable trade paperback, as we like to teasingly call it. So if you're interested in it, and I certainly am, here's your chance to jump on board, because it puts all the Dynamite characters together in a way that we've never seen before. The only other thing I'd point out, and you know how much we always love those, what do they call them, replica editions or milestone editions or whatever?
Yeah.
Dynamite's doing one on Red Sonja #1 on page 200, nestled between the Amanda Connor proof statue and the Red Sonja tarot card set is a Red Sonja #1 1977 Dynamite edition, which I believe the Dynamite edition will probably be just the comic itself, since I don't believe they were going to run the original house ads or even would have the rights to run the original house ads.
You mean they're not going to run the Marvel bullpen bulletins from that issue?
I know. What's up with you, Dynamite? Get with the program. So that's it for Dynamite. I just had to point out those two things. And now?
Boom.
Boom, chugga-lugga-lugga. I got nothing new from Boom.
They've got some new series, but none of them jump out at me.
I will point out...
Boom is another company where if I hear good things about it, I'll pick up the trades.
Yeah, there was something, and I lost the note. The creators of Something Children.
Something is Killing the Children.
Yeah, we're doing something for DC, but I didn't write it down.
Well, the guy who does Something is Killing the Children writes Batman.
Tomorrow Blank. No, I don't remember. Look for it. I'm not going back into the DC solicitation. I wanted to make a note of it, saying that if you liked Something is Killing the Children, this is something you probably want to look for. But that's okay. Sometimes I can't read my own notes.
Now, know, Joe, how you said that you wanted to wait till we got to Marvel's place in the previews.
Well, it depends on where they stick the Marvel free previews thing and before it falls out. So mine was in the toy section, which is why I started with toys.
Marvel is not in previews.
Well, it was when I picked it up.
No, the Marvel, the booklet is. But
Yeah,
remember
you
how they
should
used
always.
to have a page that said
Oh
Marvel?
yeah,
They don't have that anymore because Marvel is leaving Diamond.
yeah, yeah. And it'll be interesting to see. Marvel may end up going the route of DC in terms of what the F are you doing, especially if they stop with the previews. Especially you, Marvel, because are they going to keep doing it?
Yep, they've said they're going to keep doing it, and you'll be able to get it through previews because comic shops can still get their Marvel books from Diamond. It's just Diamond will be kind of a sub-distributor.
Again, I don't know.
Diamond is a wholesaler for Marvel, whereas Penguin is the distributor.
See, I don't know. Maybe I'm a dinosaur in this, but I'm kind of like, if it's not in previews, I'm going to gloss over it. And really, if Marvel were to cut back and not even publish this catalog somehow, I would probably stop buying Marvels the way I'm stopped buying DC. If you're not going to tell me about it, if I got to jump through hoops to hear about it, I'll go elsewhere. Because believe me, there's tons of people vying for my dollars. I can't tell you the number of Kickstarter stuff I've get, things that I'm actually interested in. So yeah, Marvel DC, unless you're totally giving up on me, my fossilized views of the world and the direct market, whatever. Let's try to stay positive.
So Joe, if you open your Marvel previews and you see on the inside cover,
mine's printed upside down.
Do you see Predator there?
Well, I did notice that they did cancel all the Predator variants on the Marvel. So if you ordered those Predator variants last month, like I did, get a hold of your local comic shop and tell them, would you please get me a different edition?
And did you know why they have, because they have Predator and a Predator omnibus and all that listed in this previews. Do you know why they canceled it?
My guess is somebody higher up in the food chain told them, no, we're not launching Predator that way.
Nope. They're holding it until they're with Penguin.
Whatever, Marvel.
They figure they'll be able to reach more retailers if they do it there with the new #1. Especially after the Alien #1 hit over 200,000 in sales.
Whatever. Again, I say whatever because, and again, this is probably a podcast that's brewing. I have a feeling that the major retailers or publishers are pretty much abandoning the direct market. I think, and I'm not saying they don't need to, but I'm just saying it's a dying market, and it's just the way it is. It lasted this long. It kept comics in the 70s from dying, but I just don't see a lot of love and support from Marvel or DC anymore. They don't love us, Cory.
They love our money.
Well, if they're making it hard for me to give it to them, I question even that. But enough of that. Enough. Cory, you mentioned Predator, and I got to admit, much like Alien, I'm going to jump on board with the #1 just to see how it goes. I'm trying to find it where it is, but it's in there, folks. #1. Here we go. Page 32. Predator #1 with tons of variant covers. Pick your variant cover. Me, I might go for the Peach Momoko variant cover.
Momoko. Yeah.
Momoko. Momoko. I feel like I'm an electric company. If not, David Finch. So, but again, it depends on how much they are. Sometimes they charge a lot for these, but so yeah, I'm definitely going to jump on board with Predator. Oddly enough, Cory, That's it for me.
Not much in the way of new series. I do want to point out that once again, no true believers, but there is a new Marvel Tales for Loki, The Trials of Loki, which reprints the 2010 miniseries, because by the time these comics hit the market, there will be the Loki TV series.
Oh yeah.
There is two big stories that Marvel is doing. One is War of the Bounty Hunters, which is basically Boba Fett is trying to get Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and all the other bounty hunters are going to try and stop him.
Sounds like a Shadows of the Empire redux.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, with the X-Men books, they are doing a Hellfire Club Gala, which is kind of going to be
Gala.
Gala,
Potato,
Gala,
potato?
tomato, tomato.
Let's call the whole thing off, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to wait for the trade.
Yeah. Well, I buy all of these as trades. But after this, they're going to be shaking up the creative teams. Some of the books are going away. Some new books will be created. So
and I am probably of the I don't know if I'm like most guys, but me, I'm following the hitch.
I'm just buying those Dawn of X trade paperbacks. I love that. I absolutely love that. I hope they do that for more interconnected books, because it's, oh, cool. Here's all the books for this month in a trade paperback. Cool. I'm happy. Then to the collected editions, where Marvel's not getting as much of my money as they used to. What?
I know. I got absolutely nothing from them. That there's a couple things I'm excited about. But I want to hear what you have to say, Cory, because usually I listen to you and then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll put that on my list.
Well, there's Cull the Conqueror, which reprints the other Cull Omnibus, reprinted all the black and white stuff. This, Cull the Conqueror, the original Marvel Years Omnibus, reprints all the comic stuff, including, let's see, the graphic novel called The Veil of Shadow, Marvel Team Up, which Dark Horse couldn't reprint, that has Cull, Cull the Conqueror 1 and 2, Cull the Conqueror 1 through 10. So there we go, another omnibus featuring a Robert E. Howard character. I am a little miffed that it's such a small omnibus, 632 pages for $125, which means I get it for $62. So, boy, those license fees. And then on page 87, Star Wars Darth Vader by Charles Soule. This is the second Darth Vader series that Marvel did. Darth Vader 1 through 25 and annual number 2. I like that Marvel puts these out. And I also like that, okay, each series is kind of one creator overseeing it. It takes place in one certain specific time frame, and they all have a beginning, middle, and end. So they do work in this omnibus format. Also want to point out, one of the hardest books to find are the Tomb of Dracula Essentials, the Tomb of Dracula Omnibuses, the Tomb of Dracula trade paperbacks. Marvel is finally going to be doing the Marvel Masterworks Tomb of Dracula, which reprints the, let's see, first 11 issues and the stories from Dracula Lives 1 and 2. If the past is any indication, this one is going to sell out fast. However, the first few issues of this are not the Tomb of Dracula that you're thinking of, because they're by Gary Conway and Archie Goodwin. Wolfman doesn't come on until I think it's issue 5 or 6, and then it becomes the Tomb of Dracula everybody knows. So, and then King in Black is being reprinted in a series of trade paperbacks. Not even hardcovers, not an omnibus. Very disappointed by that. Very disappointed. Shaking a finger at them, by the way. So if you want, there's, I don't know, about 7 or 8 King in Black trade paperbacks being printed. The Dawn of X trade paperbacks are changing to Reign of X with this month. And those are the ones that I pick up. The Maestro miniseries by Peter David, which is Hulk in the Future, getting a trade paperback. And then lots of Epic collections being reprinted. As for new Epic collections, there is the New Mutants Sudden Death, which reprints issues 55 through 70, which are the ones where nobody cared. And then Wolverine reprints, let's see, it's a volume 3, Wolverine 31 through 44. This is the Larry Hama, where Wolverine was being chased by robots. I was not a fan. The one that people may want to pick up after watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, though, is Captain America Epic Collection number 14, which is The Captain, reprinting Captain America 339 through 350, which is the story where the American government fires Steve Rogers and hires what's his name here? John Walker, who becomes U.S. agent, but Captain America, because he's been fired and can't call himself Captain America anymore, becomes the Captain. Then the last thing I am pointing out is on page 117, the Fantastic Four 1 through 10 Marvel Masterworks. This is the smaller, cheaper version. This is $15.99, which reprints the first 10 issues of the Fantastic Four. And that was it for Marvel. I'm only buying 2 omnibuses from Marvel. What up with that? I've seen what they've got coming, and they're going to hit me pretty hard the next few months. And Joe is now rejoining us. And now we get to the rest of the story.
All I can say is that Space 1999 Eagle is looking better every moment we talk. Because as we get into the other section, I have 2 things to talk about. And only 2 things. That's not saying I'm not buying things. I'm buying plenty. But they're all current series or things that I go back and make sure I'm trying to finish the miniseries. So I will start out quickly. Everybody, page 240. Give a second to get there. Under Action Lab Danger Zone, the S Factor. An underappreciated sidekick named Gray Fox decides to rebrand himself through a dating reality TV show for superheroes called The X Factor, where 12 female contestants fight for his affection. Meanwhile, his former superior, Dark Fox, is bewildered as to why he would put himself in such a vulnerable position. Sounds interesting. Nice kind of twist on a current reality show TV. Cory, what you got up next?
I am pointing this out, and I have not decided if I'm buying it or not. Joe, please turn to page 263.
All right, 263. Okay.
The first Patriotic Hero was published by MLJ Comics, which later became Archie Comics, and that was The Shield, to the point where MLJ threatened to sue Marvel over Captain America because Captain America's shield was much like the Shield's chest emblem. That's why Captain America has a round shield. Rob Liefeld is doing a reboot of The Shield.
Yeah, that's on my maybe list as well.
I honestly don't know if I am picking it up or not. I will not decide until the final time because Rob Liefeld's stuff, his art has gotten better. His stories still make no sense. But this has a train wreck quality that I just want to see because every time Archie tries to bring back the Mighty Crusaders, it's just a mess. It's always just a mess, and I don't know why.
Well, maybe get the blank cover, and then whenever you decide to go to a con or you run into an artist, say, hey, would you do something on this? What?
Or I
I
could
don't
just
care.
ask Jess to draw
Oh, a
from
line in
Crazy
my eye.
Comics and Stories. Or one of my favorite things from any convention ever was done by Tim Kaiser.
Oh, yes.
Tim Kaiser at one of our conventions had a Captain America #1, the Rob Liefeld edition, and he went around to artists and asked them to deface it. And at first, some of the artists were like, "Oh, I don't want to." But after a couple did, everybody got in the act of making fun of the art and pointing out problems. And I think even didn't Dan Jurgens do something in it too?
Yeah.
He finally broke and said, "Okay."
I have no idea if Tim has these anymore. Next time we talk to Butch, we'll have to have him contact him and say, "Do we need to get these like scanned and online somewhere?" I'm sure the copyright holder will kill us, but still, it'd be fun just to see.
Now, Joe, can you you don't have to completely close your previews, but can you close it and look at the spine?
The spine again. Oh, Alan Moore's Providence Compendium.
That is on page
I did see that.
269, and I am torn. Mm-hmm. It's Alan Moore. It's a story I haven't read, but it's from Avalon, and I'm not a big fan of their art style. And because it's Avalon, how do I know that in 2 months they won't be selling this for $2.99?
Well, as far as I know, this is the first new thing they've had in forever.
No, they did a new comic about 3 months ago.
Okay, I can't believe
I don't even remember what it was, but it was they did one new comic, and this is a collection of comics that has never been collected before. But then you turn the page and, oh, look, here are all these books that they were selling for $30 each because they're special covers. They're $5.99.
Yeah.
And how many times did they blow out everything? Hardcovers for $5.99, trade paperbacks for $2.99. It makes it hard for me to say, oh, I'm going to pay full price for this when I just know in a few months they're going to go back to the warehouse cleaning sale, and it's like, well, we got about 10,000 of these sitting on the shelf, so move them out, baby.
Or maybe they learn. Maybe they won't print 500 of them. I do know, like I said before, especially when you get to some of the other variants, that there is one retailer online who's, well, like in Boundless, I think is the they'll have like, okay, here's 50 Shades of Nude leather edition. There's only 50 of them made. Well, this guy orders all 50 of them, and then he sells them for cover price. And you're kind of like, I think he must be getting them all, because I know a lot of the things I've ordered have been canceled because, I just want one copy. So, be that as it may, again, another reason why people are buying shit online instead of through their friendly neighborhood comic store.
I would like to point out on page 299 that Fantagraphic Books, printers of the Comics Journal, Underground Comics, Complete Crumb, there's a Disney Adventures Darkwing Ducks book.
Let's get dangerous.
Right next to the Red Room #2 by Ed Piskor, which is definitely not for children.
Not for children.
So strange. Overstreet, the Overstreet 51st edition is being solicited. Comes out in July. You've got one cover by David Mack, which is Daredevil and Echo, and the second cover is Static and Hardware by Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz. And the big book, which that's the one that's got the, basically it looks like a notebook, so you can keep track of your collection a little better. That one has a Golden Age Daredevil cover by Buzz.
I may actually get that.
Normally you have to wait an extra 2 months before this one comes out, but they're putting it out the same time as the others.
Yeah. I will point out a couple of things on that. First of all, hang on. That's what I get for moving my previews. I lost the page. What page? Oh, there they are. I have been ordering that. I ordered that second print facsimile edition way back in December. I haven't got it. I do recall ordering, there was supposed to be a signed edition where Bob Overstreet was going to sign it. It evaporated. I can find no sign that I ordered it. But I'm thinking I may get a hold of this Overstreet Price Guide edition for one reason and one reason only. Cory, can you guess what that is? And I'll give you a hint. What is our secondary mission in this here podcast?
To mention every comic ever printed.
And with this in mind, I can take this and go through the old shows, and as we mention it, I will mark off the title. So eventually, we will be able to go and say, Cory, we have never mentioned this particular comic. Let's do it, and then we can finally put that baby to rest.
Okay.
And since I'm ordering nothing else, I might just go. I think Steve Brown had an older one for like $15. Maybe I'll do that. But one way or another, we're going to get this mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
Again, I'll just sit back and, like I said, I'm done with previews. What else you got for us?
There is not a lot else for me either.
Like I said, a lot of the stuff, and it occurred to me because a lot of times when I go through previews, I like to think in terms like if I was still a retailer, what would be the things I would order? And a lot of the things that are out there are just things that are not necessarily for me. You know, could be for teenagers, could be for, like I said, the Doors graphic novel. It reminds me a lot of like when I closed Hot Comics St. Paul, or I sold it off, because that was the beginning of the manga buzz, where manga had switched from comic book format. I do not like the word floppy, so I'll try not to use it, into the smaller graphic novels. But at the same time, everybody was carrying them. I mean, the bookstores had tons of them. They were at Best Buy, and I was kind of like, how do you decide what to order? And I'm kind of glad I didn't have to deal with that, because that might have broke me just trying to keep up with the whole kit and caboodle. And I think it's that way now. We look at all these graphic novels, and I cannot see necessarily a comic shop buying half of these because they're not selling to his particular clientele. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? No, it isn't. If you're a niche market, which is what I've always thought comic book shops are, that's the way to do it. And I can understand why Previews is offering these, but I just don't see how they necessarily would help your friendly neighborhood comic store. Other than you, that's right, you, the listener, going down to them and saying, hey, these are the things in Previews. Would you pre-order them for me? And maybe you can get a discount for it. Just all the shenanigans going on. I've got a bad feeling about the direct market and friendly neighborhood comic shops. And I'd hate to see them die because of what's going on at higher levels, considering they made it through the pandemic, at least the ones locally. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to recommend books. Hopefully you hear something. And I make this invite every time we do previews. If you got something we overlooked, or you got something you want us to recommend, or better yet, you're a creator that's got something you'd like to tell our fans about. Cory, how can these people get a hold of us?
Well, you would get a hold of us right here. Believe it or not, kids, this here podcast has sponsors. And that sponsor, since day one, is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com is the best, bar none, web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a website, head on over to DreamHost.com, put in code CRAYZ, that's K-R-A-Y-Z, and get $20 off your first year. Now, if you would like to advertise here on any of the Solitaire Rose Network podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com, subject advertising. Also, head on over to eBay and look for user Krayz, K-R-A-Y-Z. That's Joe Crazy Writer, who's always telling us about the eBay in every episode of Crazy Comics and Stories. If you would like to contact us, you can do so. You can give us a call at 952-856-0519. Leave a message and we'll play it on the show. Or you can send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. See, it's in the ads.
Yeah, I kind of, and I didn't realize because usually we start out with these guys are sponsors.
But I'm not done, Joe.
I know. I just thought we'd throw it in there just to kind of. And
Go to
what will suck
page.
is the people who like normally, oh, they're doing the ads. Let's fast forward or quit. Boy, are they going to be surprised. We have after preview spoilers now. Or scenes.
Go to page 342.
342.
This is that new book by Chris Samney. What's it about? Don't care. It's by Chris Samney. Jonna and the Unpossible Monsters. Rainbow has been looking for her younger sister Jonna for over a year since the monsters appeared and the world began to dry up. Going from settlement to settlement, Rainbow asks every survivor she meets, "Have you seen my sister?" Then one day, Jonna is spotted out in the wild, filthy but very much alive and strong enough to knock back a towering monster with one punch. All this time she's been surviving, on her own, without Rainbow, without anyone. There are more dangers in the world than monsters, and when the two sisters reunite, they'll discover the secrets of this new and terrifying world firsthand. Again, it's Chris Samney. Chris Samney is one of the best artists in comics. I pick up anything he does. This is the first thing he's writing and drawing. It's basically it's a smaller size trade paperback, 112 pages from Oni/Lionforge. I'm all in.
And of course, across from it is something I'll just give a shout out for because I don't want to be left out. Kaiju Max Season 6, number 2 by our friend Xander Cannon. Absolutely. And this is his final season. This may be it.
So if you go to page 364, you'll see Ms. Tree Volume 3, The Cold Dish. Here's the weird thing. Ms. Tree Volumes 1 and 2 reprinted the very end of the Ms. Tree story by reprinting the stuff from DC's Ms. Tree Quarterly. This goes back to the beginning, reprinting the early issues of Ms. Tree. And the reason for that is that Beatty and Max Collins, who are the creators, Scary Terry Beatty, used to live here in Minneapolis, but we still love him. Max Collins, one of my favorite crime writers. They said that usually when you start with the beginning, the sales drop as you go on, which means that the really good stuff that they did toward the end may never get printed. So they wanted to start with their favorite stuff, the stuff they did for the quarterly at DC, to kind of make sure that that stuff gets reprinted in case sales drop as they go along. Mystery is one of my favorite comics from the 80s. It is literally the comic that got me hooked on crime fiction, because not only did I love the comic, but in the letters page, Max Collins would talk about, oh, you know, here's this writer and this writer and this writer and this writer. And as a nerdy kid in central Illinois, I didn't know about crime fiction. I just knew science fiction and fantasy because you had Tolkien and you had the science fiction section in the bookstore. And mystery, to me, was always Agatha Christie, and I'd read a few and didn't care for it. And it's weird that most of the mysteries around were what they call cozy mysteries, which is, oh, someone has been murdered and all the suspects are around and the the person solving the crime, just kind of spends time, a lot like Murder, She Wrote. Murder, She Wrote is a cozy mystery, whereas a crime mystery is grittier, darker, and once I started reading those, I was hooked. I don't read much science fiction anymore, but I'm reading 2 crime novels right now. So I've moved deep into the crime stuff. And really, I think that is about it for new things. Yep, the only other stuff I have listed are the, from Warrant, is the Vampirellas Carmilla magazine, which is kind of their knockoff of Vampirella. And then the next volume in the Maison Ikoku from Viz, although I do want to point out on page 403, this Star Wars High Republic that I thought was just a new series from Marvel. Nope, they're going to be books, and now there's a manga series from Viz, which I don't know if I'm getting or not. But this
Now,
is
Cory,
long before the Skywalkers were around.
is there anything else in the previews?
I think that is it for me. Once again, I'm always in the mode. I'm always looking for T-shirts now because I work from home and I can wear T-shirts at work. And next to nothing in previews again for T-shirts.
Yeah. Well, you know what people could do? They could listen to all the podcasts that you work on, like these.
The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is currently on a pause, basically because COVID-19 has made it so that I have to work a lot of extra hours at both jobs. But you can still go and listen to my other podcasts. Now, you're probably listening to Crazy Comics and Stories, which is the main podcast. But on this same feed, KRAYZCOMIX, is Solitaire Rose Radio, the solo radio podcast that I do. I've done interviews, I've done short stories, I've done all sorts of things, and you can get to it right here on this same feed. I also do a podcast called Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's over at novels.solitairerose.com. Dangerous Dan Moore and I, and of course Wolfie B. Bad, give you bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. You send in your questions, and we give you the aforementioned bad advice. And then myself and Adam Vermillion from For the Love of Comics do the Fantastic Forecast at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com, where we go through the issues of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time, to give the plot and commentary on each issue. That's not all. Yes, I'm crazy. I still, over at pwinsiderelite.com, every week on Wednesday, do a recap of the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. I write up what happened, and then myself and Anthony Pyrus will do an audio. Now, you can only listen to the audio, if you remember, at pwinsiderelite.com, and if you're a wrestling fan, you should be, where we then break down the episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a grade, and let you know if you should have watched that episode. Those are the other podcasts here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network. Thanks.
There, how's that? I'm learning to give you your shill.
And now it's Joe's favorite part of the show.
Oh, we're looking. Oh,
no, not where he looks at pictures of me sending him a video of my computer booting up.
Ooh, it's riveting. Just in case you were worried, it did.
The bad thing is I have, the sound bar I have has Alexa on it. Mm-hmm. And you can't change the wake up word. So it's always Alexa. So if I'm listening to somebody talking about wrestling and they mention Alexa Bliss, or I was watching Star Trek and the ones where I can change, like my Echo Dot, I change it to the wake up word is computer, because, that's what they would do on Star Trek. Computer, blah, 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 blah.
Computer.
So when I'm watching Star Trek, oh my God, the Echo Dot is just constantly starting.
Bad.
But no, Joe, what's going on the eBays?
All sorts of stuff. I just spent most of the afternoon putting a bunch of stuff up. I'm finding all sorts of fun things as I'm not only going through the various stuff that I've bought, but, I'm reading it and deciding whether to keep it or not. Some of the things I sold, though, are kind of unique. Speaking of comics we probably haven't talked about. Cory, have we ever talked about the further fattening adventures of Pudge Girl Blimp?
No, but I've read it.
Yeah, it's from Star Reach. I believe this was during the 70s. And it was an underground comic. And all I remember is a lot of it is because, you're reading the cover and she's all excited because she's going to college and she's finally going to get laid. And another one has her pulling a very unconscious man towards her because she's going to get laid. And to this day, I can't remember if she ever did get laid. I think she did
No,
by the end of issue 3. Didn't
I
she?
don't
I
think
don't
so.
remember. There's a variant in issue 1. The first issue came out in a magazine size, and then the other 2 came out in comic size. The rarest of all of them is a number 1 in comic size. So again, just some funny, silly stuff from the I don't know what you call it, early, later underground stuff.
Well,
I sold a copy of Red Wolf.
Star Reach was more kind of, they called themselves ground level because they also published stuff like Howard Chaykin and Walt Simonson and the person and a lot of P. Craig
Starlin
Russell.
had some stuff. Yeah.
And eventually they Mike Friedrich, who was the owner of Star Reach, sort of used that to become an agent. He was one of the first agents in comics since the old studio days of the 40s, where he would basically package stuff for comic book companies. He packaged some graphic novels for Marvel. He packaged some stuff for First. He's packaged some stuff for Eclipse. But he started as a comic writer at DC in the late 60s, early 70s, and then became an agent of a lot of the creators that were kind of big names in the 70s, that, like we discussed. And he published his own stuff. There was that Star Reach magazine that eventually became
brilliant stories in there. Yeah.
And Pudge Girl Blimp was kind of him putting his foot into the underground market as it was dying.
Yeah. And it's just silly stuff. Less silly, although maybe not politically correct nowadays. Red Wolf, the Marvel series from 72 to 73, which was kind of cool because it had art by veteran artist Sid Shores, writing chores by Golden Age Pro Gardner Fox. Only 9 issues. I had a number 8 in my run. Red Wolf, of course, was billed as the first Native American superhero to appear in comics. He appeared in Avengers 80, if you're looking for first appearances. The series, he next appeared in Marvel Spotlight, number 1, and the scene had shifted to the Old West. Red Wolf was actually the ancestor of the original character. And that's what this series was based on, the original Old West Red Wolf. 1973, issue 9, it wrapped up. I had a few issues left over. I had a run I picked up from the $1 bin, X-Men Phoenix War Song. Phoenix is back, but has it been reborn? Where? Fire and pain await the X-Men. Can they handle what's to come? Whatever. Sold it. Not that interesting. But I did have the variant cover with it, so I had a pretty good price on it, which was kind of fun. Some other fun things, just kind of going through things we may not have talked about. Let's see. This is not actually comic, but comic tie-in. Cory, remember the Sin City Death Row Marv?
Yes.
Came from McFarlane in the box. I had opened one for the con, and or for the shop, and activated it, and it would vibrate, and his eyes would turn red, and Marv said those famous lines. He laughed and said, "Is that all you got, you pansies?" What's amazing is that mine still worked. So I just put it back together and just said, hey, it's boxed, still worked. The guy who got it absolutely loved it. So that was kind of fun. I had a Gen 13 number 25. This one was interesting because when it came out, it was bagged with a Danger Girl preview inside it. Most of the ones around, people ripped them open because not only did you need it to get to Gen 13 number 25, but a lot of people were hip on the Danger Girl preview because they wanted to see what that was all about. Both comics themselves are not terribly expensive, but when you still have that bagged edition, you might be able to get some for it. Let's see, I had a Dawn number 1 Blacklight variant cover. That was the Image book, and he wrapped around on some cardboard that had Blacklight, which was very cool, very psychedelic. Let's see, what other goodies did I have?
Although after watching a whole lot of CSI episodes over the years, I don't want to have another Blacklight.
No more Blacklight. under the category of, I didn't know if I wanted to sell this or not. I sold a Liberty Meadows #1 that was signed by Frank Cho at the MCBA's 1999 Fall Con. It actually came with a COA that Frank provided, and this was one of those that I wasn't quite sure if I was going to sell or not. I mean, I had it up for a decent price because of a couple of reasons. First of all, I was the one who suggested to Nick at the MCBA they should bring in Frank Cho because I was reading Liberty Meadows. I loved it. Now Frank Cho is a major artist. We've had Frank Cho stories here on this podcast, and all those guys who got some Frank Cho art just got a deal on them. And this particular one, like I said, was signed by Frank Cho, had a certificate of authenticity, and came from Nick Post's collection. Nick Post's collection, of course, was eventually sold off by, I believe, his son and family. And this was one that actually came from him. So I was kind of like, okay, first of all, I suggested Frank Cho. It was from the MCBA. It came from Nick's own collection. It was hard to get rid of it, and I suppose years from now I wish I didn't, because you can find Frank Cho stuff. It's hard to find the Liberty Meadows signed, but to have that certificate of authenticity, I don't know of many people, if ever, that came up for sale. So I'll be putting stuff like that up on the eBays almost constantly, and sometimes I got a history beside it, behind it, or in front of it. And if I do, I'll share it here. And again, if you see something you like, if it's too expensive, do like the guy who got the Liberty Meadows, make an offer. Or the guy who got the Further Fattening Adventures of Pudge the Girl Blimp. He asked, hey, would you take this for it? And I said, yes. You can too. Go right to my page, Crazy, Krayz. And like I always said in my inimitable style, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show.
Oh, where we watch Wings to Paradise in alphabetical order?
No, not where I open a new box of snacks that I got from Amazon that gives you random snacks. Ooh, what do we have this month? Let's see. We've got sweet chili popcorners.
Sweet chili popcorners. Oh,
Jackpot popcorn. Cheez-It Scrabble.
Eat it while you can. That's a triple word for the win.
All of the Cheez-Its have letters on them. Let's see, anything else? Nothing really new and exciting this month. Oh, well. No, it's Freaking and Geeking Joe. What are you freaking on?
Oh, where did I put my list? Okay, first of all, I mentioned earlier that all the Predator variant covers were canceled, which I was really bummed about because I made such a big headache. Fortunately, Discount Comic Book Service came through, and I just said, okay, fine. Or first of all, they alerted me, which was nice. Second of all, I just said, okay, just give me the regular covers. So if you tried to order these through your friendly comic book retailer, just go tell them, hey, I want the regular cover. I don't know how that would work. If I had like 20 people that wanted the Predator variant cover, and it's like, hey, well, I suppose with final order cutoff, I could just, okay, I'll get you all the regular cover and just order 20 more. But that's damned annoying. I've ranted on random things before, but I ran across one, just negative snowflake Karen bitchy comments. This one was Michael Nesmith, the Nez, made some comment on his Facebook page. And of course, it was political in nature, and all the snowflakes came out and razzed him on it. And not only did they razz him, but they razzed him personally. They hit his music, or no talent hack. And I'm kind of like, well, we've said enough of him this episode. Why not add one more? Why the fuck would you follow somebody if you think he's a no talent hack? Is your life that devoid of meaning that you have to follow someone just to hate them? He's not Howard Stern. He's not that controversial. In fact, he's actually done quite a bit. MTV, I'm looking at you. I just don't get it. It's part of what, just to charge up political atmosphere. And there's people on board. And I engaged a few. I said, why would you bother following Nez if you think he's a no-talent hack? Are you that big of a moron? Yeah, I know I'm using inflammatory terms. And yes, apparently these people are that big of morons. I don't get it. Life's too fucking short to deal with that type of negativity. I mean, really, I got a spider on the ceiling that hasn't moved, and I find that more entertaining than listening to somebody jump on someone because you didn't like their comments. Seriously, people, grow a pair. That's all I'm freaking out. Well, I should mention, since I can't go by one episode without talking about my health. I had another crown put in, so it's only the temporary crown.
So now you've gone from Burger King to King Vitamin.
Well, I've already been there. This is my second crown, and
right.
Judging by
That's
the
why
way,
you've moved up.
Have I told you about the what happened with all my teeth or what's going to happen?
Yes.
Yeah, it's. I swear, the dentist went through and he did this test where he like puts this thing on your tooth and he taps it. Did that hurt? Yeah. Okay, looks closer. Yeah, you got a crack in that one. How about there's some ping? Oh yeah, that hurt. Okay, yeah, you're gonna have. Seriously, I should just have them all yanked or all crowned. And I don't know if you've ever had a crown done, Cory. You basically sit there with your mouth open.
I am crownless.
Oh, it's imagine a root canal is worse, but you got to sit there for a half hour with your mouth open. And first of all, they got to grind the tooth down to get rid of not only, in this case, it was a bad filling, which if you go all the way back to my deployment when I was in Washington, D.C., my second deployment at MCBA, that would have been 2010. I think we were podcasting then, weren't we?
Yeah, but it might have been
when I got back.
Yeah, it might have been when you got back. I don't remember.
Okay. I'd have to look to see when we started, but I mean, I had a cracked tooth then, and the filling lasted, I guess, pretty good, and I knew it was going to fall out, but it's just depressing. So in 2 weeks, I get to go in. Fortunately, the fitting is a lot quicker than the grinding down. And in the meantime, you just yeah, all right. Okay, I'm gonna vibrate. The tooth behind it had a crack, and he was able to fill it. And he says, "Well, if that starts to hurt, we're gonna have to do the same thing." Why did I even bother brushing my frickin' teeth? I should have just let them rot out of my head already. So we'll be revisiting that. I mean, I can't replace my hips every year for you people. That's all I'm freaking on. Cory, what you freaking on?
I mentioned it a little earlier. Marvel, their King in Black collection, not even doing a hardcover. Going straight to, here's a whole bunch of trade paperbacks. With War of the Realms, oh, here's an omnibus, and then we'll do a bunch of little trade paperbacks. Absolute Carnage, same thing. Here's an omnibus, and then I wish Marvel would just decide on how they're going to collect these things and do it the same every time. For consistency's sake, I'm a collector. We collectors are like that. It's like when they changed the trade dress for the Marvel Masterworks and Pat Gruber lost his mind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what are those things, $50 a pop? And he's
well, now they're 75. Now they're 75.
Entire bookcase full of them, and all of a sudden, it changed on me. It makes a difference. I remember back when I had all the Masterworks and all the DC archives. I've since sold them all off because after reading some of them, you're like, Golden Age wasn't all it was cracked up to be. It's nice to have them all look the same and then just have that one that sticks out.
The thing that always bugged me is when they would all have kind of the logo would be in the same place, and then you get one where the logo would be up like a quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
And it would be, wait a minute. I think Legion of Superheroes is like that, where it goes along, and then one of them, they misplaced the logo on the spine up by just a quarter of an inch, and then back to where it was on the previous ones, and you look at it and you go, God damn it.
Damn it.
It was WrestleMania last weekend, Joe.
It was?
And I work at PW Insider, where I
You
write
do?
up wrestling.
You do?
And
I know.
a couple of years ago was kind of when I first started doing that. I helped out by writing up on some of the indie shows that were happening around WrestleMania. It was up in New York, and there were all these indie shows going on, and they were streaming them on Fight TV and what was it? Independent Wrestling TV, IWPT TV, which is Independent Pro Wrestling TV.TV. And for a lot of those, it's like, okay, these aren't the greatest shows in the world, but these are, younger talents getting their first showcase. A lot of them moved on to work for WWE or AEW. They had a Shimmer show, which is this Japanese women's-based promotion, which has been going on for years, and they were good shows. Now, last year, because of the pandemic and WrestleMania was basically filmed in a warehouse, and they didn't have all these indie shows around WrestleMania. So this year, it's in Florida again. And even though it is Florida, there weren't a lot of indie shows going on around there because a lot of the small independent companies are like, it's still not safe. And Florida is really not safe. But Mike had the list of stuff, and I said, oh, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. So I picked up 6 shows, and 4 of the 6 were what are known as death match wrestling, which I'd never seen before. And if I would have known that they were death match wrestling, I wouldn't have picked them up. I have never seen death match wrestling before. Now, in WWE and ECW and AEW and other and even TNA, they have no rules matches where things get violent, where people bleed, where they use the Mick Foley baseball bat with barbed wire on it and things like that. But I'd never seen deathmatch stuff. And the thing about when the major federations, it's this feud has gone so long, and these two people hate each other so much that we cannot control them anymore. We're just going to say there are no rules and let them fight it out. AEW recently did that with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. It was fantastic. These cards were terrible.
Mm-hmm.
If I weren't covering them, I would have stopped watching within a half hour because it's just, these guys just come out and they've got fluorescent light tubes and bats covered with thumbtacks and all this shit around the ring. And they immediately just start beating each other with it. Maybe you'll have a few wrestling moves to start off, but then it's, this guy gets this and beats this guy in the head with a light tube so that it breaks. And then they use the glass to cut each other. And it was awful. It was horrible to watch. It's just 2 guys trying to make each other bleed all over the ring. No story, no personality. It's not like, this guy's a good guy and this guy's a bad guy, or this guy's got this interesting personality. No, it's just they go out there and they basically just cut on each other. And after the final one I covered, I emailed Mike Johnson, who's one of the 2 guys who run the site, and I said, I can't watch this stuff ever again. I don't ever want to watch it ever again. It's not entertaining. It's just awful.
What did he say?
He basically said, at least you didn't pay for it.
Yeah. And next year you'll know better.
Yeah, but really that was all they had. There was a all women's card, which didn't have a death match, but it was just awful because the announcers were just screaming the whole time, and the matches were sad. Then there was a new fed called Violence and Suffering, which it wasn't death matches, but in some of the matches they had people you'd heard of. They had JTG from the WWE. They had Brian Cage from AEW. They had Loki and it was Loki versus, I forget who Loki was facing. But, they had wrestling matches. But, man, the rest of the card was just fucking awful. I have not watched WrestleMania yet. I haven't even watched any other wrestling yet because I just need to get that taste out of my mouth for a week. Because It was like, remember in the 80s when you would go to the video store and there would be horror movies and then there would be stuff like Cannibal Holocaust and Blood-Sucking Maniacs and Driller Killer. I was never one of the people who wanted to see that. I don't mind a good crappy movie. I don't mind a good crappy indie wrestling show. But when it's just how much blood can we pour? No, that's not for me. And the last thing I am freaking on, Joe, have you heard of these NFTs, these non-fungible tokens?
No.
It is a new investment form where you're buying an online video or an online picture, and you have the original, and they trace it the same way they trace Bitcoin. And to me, it's a huge scam. But there's people spending tons of money on this stuff, and WWE is now announcing they're going to be selling them. And DC is talking to their artists about how some of the art they do, when they do the JPEGs, they're going to make them the non-fungible tokens. It's some new Bitcoin type thing, except to me it's really, really, really scammy. And all of these companies are now jumping into it. And to me, I paid $2.5 million for this JPEG of The Undertaker. Well, I've seen that JPEG of The Undertaker all over the place. Yeah, but this is the only one that's official. Maybe I'm old. Maybe I'd rather have something physical. If I'm going to pay $2.5 million for something, I want it to be an actual thing. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Oh, let's see. I actually read some comics.
What?
And this
You're
is just to
talk
show you
about comics on this comic book podcast?
I know.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
I know. And you know what's even more daring? It was a DC graphic novel. You think by the amount of hate I spew towards DC, and again, it's not hate, it's just frustration. You have a guy who wants to spend money and you're not allowing me to. I picked up a copy of Superman versus Shazam. 8. They count them 8 classic confrontations between two great heroes. They did include 2 of them that I thought they should. The first actual appearance in Justice League, where they actually fought, but I guess that was just a couple head-to-head meetings. Although they could have, because as they start out and they've got the classic Superman vs. Shazam all new collector's edition C58, the big oversized Treasury edition, which was actually their first big meeting. They had met in that Justice League previously. From there, they go on to DC Comic Presents, 33, 34, 49, Annual 3. Then they cut into bits of other series. They take the parts from Kingdom Come number 4, where they fight up until the nuclear explosion. And then Superman 216, Power Shazam 46, but just the fight scenes. And I'm thinking, if you're cutting up those later comics just to round out the fight, you could have taken the earlier said Justice League and put together, we fought briefly. Well, you could have put it in there, I'm just saying. But I enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun reading To the Icons, reading some of the stories I remember fondly. My copy of Shazam versus Superman is woefully beat up, and it will remain so because I will pull that sucker out every so often and read it. Unfortunately, it's printed on newsstand papers, which means it deteriorates, but it's nice to have these in a type of format that just won't go away. So, CDC, I do love you. You just got to give me something to love. Turning to Marvel, I did read Red Aliens #1. I reads good. I picked up the Pat Gleason variant because I'm a Gleasonite. Hey, I'm a Pat Gleason fan. Unfortunately, it's got that shiny, effed up black cover, which you can hear me trying to rub the little fingerprints that appear on it because I actually touched my comic to read. Seriously, publisher, can the fucking black. I'm just so tired of it. I promise next podcast I won't use the Effenheimers, but if I get them all out of this in this here podcast, I'll be done for the month. The story was fun, although I probably won't stick with it too long because it just strikes me these might be read better as a trade or wait for the omnibus. Speaking of not waiting, I picked up the first Iron Man trade. This is the one that Cantwell, Keifu, and Tarmada. I think I said that right. They're doing it. Boy, Tony's really messed up. I don't know what happened to him in Iron Man 2020, but he's obviously feeling it. Unfortunately, and it's not really a big secret because if you're following the solicitations, you'll know what happened. Guess who came back? Cory, guess.
Happy Hogan.
That's a pretty good guess. No. Different letter of the alphabet. Korvac. And if you don't know who Korvac is, well, you obviously never read the great run in Avengers. This time, Korvac is trying not to get anybody to notice him. Unfortunately, Iron Man has noticed him. He also knows that if anybody else tries to go after Korvac, they're going to get liquidated. So Iron Man's pretty much doing it alone. Now, what's fun about this is this first book, relatively thin, 1 through 5 for $16. But I just read in the solicitation, this month's previews, this is a long-term storyline. He's not just done and gone. He's going somewhere with this. And maybe in the future, it's going to be a War of the Realms or a King in Black or whatever, one of those payoffs that, because you can't think you're going with such a cosmic character that had such a brief but sparkling run in Avengers, and he's just going to disappear. I mean, eventually this could lead to an entire universal fight. Oh, I'm hoping so. But right now it's just Iron Man doing his best to outsmart him. He's not doing a very good job of it. So I'm tempted to jump on board on the actual comic. I forget what they're up to, number 12. But or just hang and just do the trades. Or back off and wait for the omnibus. I don't know. Marvel, you're confusing the heck out of me. That's pretty much all I got. Oh, wait a minute. There's one other thing, if you can believe that. Speaking of obsolete industries, Cory, have you heard or seen the last Blockbuster?
Yes, I did. I watched that on Netflix. What a fun show.
It was. If you ever went to Blockbuster Video, you've got to watch this. Basically, it's a documentary on the last remaining Blockbuster Video located in Bend, Oregon. And believe me, as much as I'd like to take a field trip, it's a bit way of a drive. But it's kind of fun. Sandy Harding is the manager, and she talks about one of the big things going through the whole episode is whether or not she will be able to keep the Blockbuster going, because it's been a family business. It pretty much started before Blockbuster, and when Blockbuster came along, they're like, yeah, we'll franchise it from you. It's got appearances by tons of people, including Kevin Smith. And it actually pretty much does a great job of explaining why, in this day and age of streaming, they are still around when all the other Blockbusters, including 3 that were up in Alaska, the last 3 have closed. And I was going to ask Cory the question, why did Blockbuster go under? But Cory knows the actual answer. Most people think it's because they couldn't compete with Netflix. Isn't that cute? But you're wrong! You want the right answer? Check it out on Netflix, The Last Blockbuster.
However, that movie missed out on one of the big things that business executives and the people who owned Blockbuster say is what killed them. It's the same thing that killed Hollywood Video. Their business model was built on late fees.
Oh, yeah. No, you're giving it away. It'll be in the left.
They don't talk about it in that movie, though. They talk about
they do.
It's because of this.
No,
when they got rid of late fees, they could no longer be profitable.
They did mention that.
They mentioned it a little, but they said it was when you watch the movie, they talk about something else that they say is the big reason. Whereas financial people say, no, it's this.
Yeah, maybe. But the financial people would be wrong because Blockbuster lasted beyond that late fee thing. But doesn't matter. There's one left, and if you want to know the reason they say they went under, check it out.
And they are, I am checking right now,
They're still around.
they are still in business.
Yep. That was the first thing I did after I Googled it, because this was from 2020, and they did manage to survive through the pandemic by having people come to the curve and pick up stuff. So, yeah, I really would. And that's the thing. When you go there too, they got a lot of swag that says, "Hey, you were at the last Blockbuster," and people are always, taking pictures next to the signs. And I'm sure if Sandy's there, people are getting pictures with her as well. So, because that's
the
actually
weird thing about Blockbuster, about my connection with it. I never would go to a Blockbuster to rent movies, ever. I didn't like their business practices because they had run all the mom and pops out of business. They were actually, people forget about this. In the 2000s,
the moms and pops that didn't carry porn.
But they
didn't
were also
run those guys out of business.
They were demanding cuts to Hollywood films. They would actually go to studios and go, "We will not carry. We will limit the number of movies we get of this unless you edit this out of the video releases." There were actually Blockbuster versions of movies.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
They don't touch on any of that. I wouldn't rent from them because of that. If I want to rent a movie, I want it to be the version that was in theaters or the director's cut. I don't want a cleaned up PG version of an R-rated movie.
Well, a lot of this too was also pre-internet. If it had happened during the internet era, they might not have gotten away with it as much. Or it also might have tied in. That could have been something. Hey, we have the original uncut, unlike Blockbuster does. So
that's what Hollywood Video would say that.
Yeah, they could get away with that because, and I think, was there a Hollywood Video between us and Angelo's Pizza?
Yes.
So we would walk, and inevitably, and it was probably Butch, he would walk into the Hollywood Video and spend some time looking at stuff, because by the time we got out of Angelo's Pizza, they'd be closed. So we closed at 8. We'd walk down to Angelo Pizza, and we'd have to stop in there. There was a brief bookstore. Sometimes we'd walk over to Blockbuster, but not too often. I do remember going to Blockbusters, mostly with Dana, because she wanted to rent, or we wanted to rent whatever it was. And first thing we do is we'd go look at all the new releases, and then I would go find the one video that only they had for some reason that no other Blockbuster had, or nobody else had. And I'm pretty sure, I wish I could remember the titles of it. They'd be real, like Dark Star, the Carpenter movie, or something schlock, things that I would see at the Uptown Theater, or Revival Theater up in our Uptown area, Minneapolis. That's cool. I hadn't thought of that in years. We'd stop and go into Hollywood Video. Some of us, not everybody. Some of us would just keep going to Angelo's because we were hungry. So,
Grover, go to Angelo's.
See, there's still some tales from the shop to be told. Anyways, that's my geeking. What you geeking on, Mr. Strode?
I am reading some older stuff. Right now I am reading a book by Ray Bradbury, which collects his crime short stories. Let me pull up the title here.
Can I interrupt with one thing?
Sure.
While you're looking? The thing I couldn't find when we were talking about DC, the title that James Tyron IV, the guy who writes Something is Killing the Children in the Department of Truth, from DC, The Nice House on the Lake.
Oh,
that's a DC. That's the name of the title that I was going to recommend if you like Department of Truth, which we do, and Something is Killing the Children, which I do. I don't know if you're reading that one, Cory.
Yeah.
So check that out. Did you find what you were looking for, Mr. S?
Yes, it is called Killer Come Back to Me, The Crime Stories of Ray Bradbury. When you think Ray Bradbury, you think of a certain type of story. He did science fiction that was kind of more poetic, like Martian Chronicles or The Illustrated Man. A lot of his stories would have a twist ending because short stories had twist endings. He was one of the first literary science fiction fantasy writers. I did not know he had done any crime fiction, but he did crime short stories in the 40s and 50s because, hey, you're a working writer. You're going to be sending stories to all magazines you can. Really, really good stuff. Joe, have you ever watched or have you watched the Perry Mason in the past?
Raymond Burr.
Yeah.
I, you know, years ago.
Have you ever read any of the Perry Mason books? Because it
Negative.
was based on books that first were movies and then a TV series. They were done by Earl Stanley Gardner. Earl Stanley Gardner had another series called Lem and Cool. And Hard Case Crime is reprinting those. I had never read any of them. And the ones I have read that Hard Case Crime has put out are just fantastically fun. They're not your typical hard-boiled detective novels. They're lighter. The Lem is the very small, thin guy who does all the legwork. He's he's the guy who works in the field, gets in trouble with the cops. Women fall for him the minute he talks to them for some reason. And they make a point in the books of saying it's really weird that women just immediately fall for this guy because he's not that good looking. He's short. He's super thin. And the woman who owns the agency, Bertha Cool, is written as if she's a huge woman who is a penny pincher, and he's usually mad at him until he solves the case. But she is always mad about his expense account. So it's more light, humorous mystery, but it's being reprinted by Hard Case Crime. Most of them were written in the 30s and 40s, and man, they are fun. Just a fun series that, because Perry Mason was such a big hit, he quit writing the Lemon Cool stuff, and it just kind of faded into oblivion. Well, Hard Case Crime is bringing it back. Comic-wise, I'm reading older stuff because I've been taking a lot of shifts at the group home, and this weekend I couldn't watch any comics because I was watching guys kind of throw each other on boards with spoons and forks in them. Ugh. But I did reread Neil Gaiman's Eternals series, which, if you go back and read it, feels like a pilot for a series rather than a mini-series. And I read that because I wanted to pick up where the new series by Kieran Gillen is. And I know there was another series after that didn't go anywhere. But Gillen seems to be picking up the threads of the Neil Gaiman series and moving forward with that stuff. So I wanted to go back and get that connection. And then I've been on a Fantastic Four kick. And I am rereading the Heroes Return Fantastic Four. The first 3 issues were written by Scott Lobdell, who plotted the next 2, and then Chris Claremont took over. And one of the things that blows me away, and I didn't remember it at the time, how good Chris Claremont was at writing the Fantastic Four. He's got the banter between Johnny Storm and the Thing down, where they're teasing each other and playing pranks on each other. And Reed Richards seems like the absent-minded professor that he is, but he's very aware of what's going on. It's just he gets hyper-focused. And Sue is the one who kind of keeps everything running. And the art is by Salvador LaRocca. Beautiful. So different from the typical 90s art because they were just coming off a run by Jim Lee. Alan Davis does the first 3 issues, which kind of sets a new tone for the art. And then Salvador LaRocca comes in, who has that heavy Alan Davis influence. And it's so smooth and so slick. It's just really slick, whereas Lee's art is more scratchy and visceral. LaRocca's art is just smooth and slick and just such a fun read. And it's been nice to go back and read through stuff that is 20 years old. Ugh. God, that makes me feel old. And, it's stuff that I remember fondly, but I haven't reread since it came out. And now I'm rereading it and really enjoying it. And then I got box day this week, so I'll probably have new stuff to read. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for 2 hours.
Good for you.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. And, Joe?
What?
I hope after I die, people will say of me, that guy owed me a lot of money. Hit my music.